So I met David in January 2015, and that's when we started a professional relationship together. As a therapist, I've had the unique opportunity to assist him in confronting the traumas of his past, supporting his personal growth, and working towards his life goals. I frequently tell David that he's defied the odds. He's a self-made man in spite of life's challenges. Some of the goals that we've worked on have been easier than others. The goal of publishing a book that covered his first 40 years of life has been a tough one. I'm very proud of him for accomplishing this goal. So when I heard he was giving talks, I wanted to sign up right away and offer him this sacred space to share his story.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out. Like Tony said, on this rainy night, it would be poetic that it was a little storm earlier, because you're going to learn more about how I have weathered the storm. As Tony mentioned, I am David Wyley Long, and I just wanted to start off with some laughter, because I think that laughter has been a cure for my life's ill. I wanted to also just give a little backstory. Every time I hear that clip, people always want to know, why were you so adamant about Sprinkle? So if anyone has anyone ever been on a game show in the room? No, I'm the only game show. Okay. So when you tape a game show, a 30-minute game show takes 6 hours to film.
Oh.
6 hours to film. It is literally the longest, unfunnest, and I know that's not even a word, but it's literally such a long, drawn-out thing. But what happens is, they literally, after every break, they touch up the host hair, they make sure that we're positioned correctly. It takes so much to go into. They do never film completely go through. If there's any mistake or anything, they stop and what have you. So after the question is asked, they literally touch up his hair. It does not go right into it. There's a lot of editing involved. So when that question was asked, this was our second show. We were already mad at each other for various reasons. So I was in a zone. And I remember I was trying to stay so focused, because there was so much going on. And he's constantly telling jokes. So I didn't even hear my cousin's wife say Sprinkle. So that's why I thought I had the answer. I was ready. I was like, yes, I got it. We're going to win. And that's why I was so adamant. And I literally, when I looked up there, I'm like, oh, that's what she said. So just to give you a little clarity and some backstory on the price on Family Feud. You'll see a little bit later my debut on The Price is Right. And I have been privileged to be on 6 game shows, and I'm trying out for number 7 very, very soon.
Yes.
So, why are we here? We are here because I'm presenting Up Against the Wind, chasing David Wiley. My life so far of 40 years of born in Newark, New Jersey, migrating to Detroit, Michigan, going back home to New Jersey to be around family, ultimately going to New York City, living there for 10 years, and then finally living here in Nashville, Tennessee for the past 10 years. I'd like to start off and just read something that was poignant to me, and something that I wrote in honor of tonight. Bear with me, because as you know, when you talk about yourself and be vulnerable, it can be tough. So please, bear with me. And thank you for receiving me. Am I broken? If not, why do I see glass in my feet? I feel broken because sometimes I see and smell the cracks of my life. I have battled this damn virus for close to 17 years. But who is counting? Well, I am. I am proud and happy to still be alive and making it, but the glass persists. It is in my community, on my social media, and in the crowded doctor's office with faces that mirror mine. But no one dares make eye contact. We take our pills and keep it moving. But I know we sit in these chairs, thumbing through old magazines and endless HIV medicine advertisement, and try to get through their appointments with peace. How do I fix this cracked window and uplift my peers and the brothers in my community who are scared to shout HIV? and only disclose when it fits them? How do I change the conversation and let my people know that it's going to be okay if my window is cracked and glass is everywhere? My name is David Wyley Long, author, college graduate, and the man with HIV for over 17 years. How do I live? I do it by crying and allowing others I know to hurt too. But these tears of joy of continuing to live and thrive. I do it by being fearless in everything I do. I do it by writing this book. I do it by standing in a room complete of strangers. I stand by standing in the front of a room of strangers telling my story. I do it because I'm not the only one, but I am the speaker of the house, sharing my voice so the tears of my pain and the glass of my feet would end with me. I do it because I care about you, but I also care about me. I wrote this book for so many reasons. The first is simple. I realized I had a story to tell, and a lot of my stuff was not pretty, not normal, to be frank, and not easy to understand. With the help of a dynamic and powerful therapist who fed me the tools to overcome the pain, trauma, and lived experiences, I put the pen to work and cried and wrote and cried some more. This story reflects many painful moments in my life, but the raw reality of love sometimes ain't pretty. I will repeat, sometimes love just ain't pretty. But that is the thing that I fully don't understand. Even today, April 5th, love ain't pretty. While love can provide rich and beautiful blessings and show up in life in simple joys as a long hug, a stolen kiss, I yearn for a mother's love. I pause now to read my first chapter. She stood behind the window of the classroom door. She was tall and silent. When I first observed her, I dismissed the sight as I was trying to concentrate on my first grade teacher, Miss Aram. It was a beautiful spring day at Herman Elementary School in Detroit, Michigan, and the sun blared inside the classroom. The lady's radiance rivaled the sunshine. I was drawn to her, and she was watching me with piercing eyes. Yet as the teacher went over the lesson for the day, I tried to avoid her stare. She stood at the door for 5 minutes before she tapped on the window. Miss Aram continued to teach and disregarded the outside visitor. However, with the second tap, she quickly excused herself. The lady hovered over the teacher while continuing to keep an eye on me. The conversation shifted everyone's attention from the school lesson and the classwork, and I was curious too. It was like a movie playing right before our eyes. We all watched the discussion unfold, and then with a dramatic moment when the lady's voice rose. The next thing I remember, the lady opened the door and stormed past Mrs. Aram into the classroom. She continued to stare at me, and she yelled my name. A tad confused, but also shaken and scared, I said yes. My row was the farthest from the classroom door, and although it was a small room, by the time she got to me, I was out of the chair running away. Miss Aram darted back into the room and attempted to block the lady from grabbing me. Suddenly, a little girl appeared, who I had not noticed before, stood at the door crying. I looked away and ran to the back of the classroom. The strange lady yelled at me again with more emotion. I stopped and stood in the back, confused about what to do. My classmates started yelling. The tall lady shouted, "I'm your mother." She couldn't be my mother. As I had left my mother earlier that morning before I got to school, this woman did not look like me, which further confused me. Her presence made me uneasy. We both stood, frozen, eyes glazed, and glued to each other. My peers grew silent, and Miss Aram rushed to my side. The lady followed, and now only Miss Aram was blocking us from touching. The little girl continued to cry. She said, "Mommy." The lady turned her attention to the little girl, then looked back at me to hug the little girl. Another teacher quickly came into the classroom and asked the lady and the girl to leave. I returned to my seat once they left and put my head down. Who was this lady? Who was this little girl? How did they know me? The principal called my father immediately, and I was waiting in the office when my father came and picked me up. I asked him if he knew who the lady was. "Someone crazy," he replied, and that was it. I knew I shouldn't question him, and because I was not in search of a mother, that was that. A month later, we left that school and found another place to live, as my father worried that this crazy lady will return. Turns out that crazy lady was indeed my birth mother, and the only crazy person in this situation was my father, who created the madness and allowed it to fester within his own child. So, now you see how my life shattered like glass in that classroom. To meet your biological mother, the lady who carried you, in a setting where confusion, anger, and craziness all combine. I can honestly reflect on that day with many good thoughts. Although I was frightened, and it was a woman who wanted me. I often wonder if she took me, how my life would prevail. Would the muted love I gave to her be blossom into being a mother's boy? Would I give her life meaning and prevent her from a tragic death just 9 years later? Would I live in regrets, as I've always believed that everything happens for a reason, and 80% of the time you honestly don't know why? I often daydream of a happy family and a together family. I was raised separate from my birth mother, as my father, who I was named after, thought it was wiser to allow his first cousin to raise me. This critical decision will have me long-lasting effects, which still affects me today, in present day. Love sometimes ain't easy. Love sometimes ain't pretty. While we know that certain love in life is different, for example, a parent's love is often the strongest love you can understand. The role of nurturing and raising is seated in love, and your well-being shapes your world. What if that is not the case and you're just there? Growing up, I was just there. Not a nuisance, but definitely not a welcome addition. Lillian, who my father deemed was the best person for me to be mothered by, lived in a world of conditions. While her love was present, it was a love never felt. I was just there. Although they were first cousins, they held a secret relationship. And while they loved each other, it was never showcased. So I lived in a loving household with no love present. Love sometimes ain't pretty. So the title is the number 2 question that I get about the book, is where did I get this title from? It is officially titled Up Against the Wind, Chasing David Wiley. I want to read now on where that started. The book is titled Up Against the Wind. and is after a song. This song, which inspired the book, came off from the phenomenal movie Set It Off. This powerful movie had 4 dynamic female leads, including Queen Latifah. We all know who Jada Pinkett Smith now is, of course. Kimberly Elise and Vivica A. Fox. The song is central to a scene at the end of the movie with Queen Latifah's character, Cleopatra, meets a fatal end. She has led the police on a high-speed chase, but they have cornered her. She sits in her car surrounded by the police, and I mean they are everywhere, in the sky and all around her. I can only imagine the feeling of having 25 loaded guns pointed at you. But she sits there and takes it all in. As she comes to terms with this new reality, this song begins to play. You begin to realize it is the end of the road for the character. She wants to do it her way. She casually lights a cigarette, and the police, knowing that she can't leave, they allow it. The song, written by Christopher Young and sung so perfectly by Lori Perry, captures the scene brilliantly. It hit me like a ton of bricks the first time I ever watched it. Word for word, this is the song of my life. And it personally sums up how I felt growing up. In the movie, Cleo continues to puff her cigarette and looks around. She also knows that this is the end. In one last hurrah, she makes the fatal decision to drive off in an attempt to push past the many police cars that surrounded her. The police proceed to shoot her in the car in a constant barrage of gunfire. It's a tough scene to watch. However, she was fighting up against the wind. And that is how I have lived my life, up against the wind. I want to just read you the song lyrics because I think everyone at one point in their life has fought against something that they have no control over. Up Against the Wind, written by Christopher Young. Day after day, seems like I push against the clouds. They keep blocking out the sun. It seems that since I was born, I've wakened every blessed morning, down on my luck, and up against the wind. Don't you stop. Don't you run. Don't you cry. You'll do fine. You'll be good. You'll get by. Night after night seems like I rage against the moon, but it doesn't light the dark. I curse the falling rain, but it won't stop my complaining. Down on my luck and up against the wind. You'll do fine. You'll do good. You'll get by. Swimming against the tide and striking the indifferent air. I'm swinging with empty hands, driving that empty dream. Day after day, I fend against the heat. But it don't ever cool the breeze. Don't you stop. Don't you run. Don't you cry. I end with the hope that inspired this black boy from Newark, New Jersey, fighting against the wind and the persistent storms of life. And I continue to push. I realize in order to grow, I must know that love and life sometimes ain't. Thank you for your time.
Do we want to see Christ is Right?
Yes, so we're going to watch another clip and then take questions. Thank you for receiving my tribute.
Let's go to whoever's closest to the actual retail price without going over. Then they can come up on stage. David, we're going to start with you. $1,750.
Let's say 1,100.
$1,100? $1,100. Barbara?
1,500.
$1,500. Cody?
1,501.
1,501. Actual retail price is $1,761. First one up on stage, and you know, we like to start the show off with a bang sometimes, David, so George, let him know. Bang me! Ready for the bang? It's the Ford Focus SE hatchback. Comes equipped with a 2-liter engine, 6-speed automatic transmission, front-wheel drive, plus paint and fabric protection. It's the Ford Focus. Focus on James O'Halloran, everybody. James O'Halloran. Hey, buddy. Hey, good day, everybody. Ever go to Vegas and roll dice? I'm about to now. You're about to now. Gonna roll some dice. I'm gonna show you the first number of the price of the Ford Focus. First number is a 2. All the other numbers are 1 through 6, just like on the dice, okay? The game's called the dice game. 1 through 6. So one by one, you're gonna roll these, make sure it goes over the line, and if the number comes up that's the correct number, ding, 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 you get it. Okay. If it doesn't, you have to tell me whether the actual number is higher or lower than the one you just rolled. 1's are an automatic winner because it has to be higher, right? 6 is an automatic winner because it has to be lower, right? That's right. So all you need is a 6 or 1 on the number. Go ahead, David. Let's get started. A 2 is the...
Wait.
Did you hand the card?
So that is so Tony is pulling that off the website, and I have all the videos, and you'll have to check out the website to see the conclusion. DavidWyleyLong.com has all of my game shows, including Judge Judy, Sally Jesse Raphael, and Let's Make a Deal, all on DavidWyleyLong.com. So it is my hope that I get on Supermarket Sweep, Password, and the weakest link is back. So put some good fillers out there, what have you, but it is something that brings me great joy. I just really wanted to showcase that because game shows are fun, you know, and I think it's poignant to bring it full circle. So if there was any questions if anyone would like to purchase the book, I am doing a special this evening because I definitely want to bless you, you have blessed me, and the purchase price is what you would like to donate. So I sell it online for $36.50. A lot of times people ask me, what is that $36.50, what have you? But there is rhyme and reason behind the $36.50. So it is a dime a day. It is literally $1 a day for an entire year. And when I started to decide to go to write the book, I wanted to take a sabbatical, a 3-month sabbatical. I thought I could complete this book in 3 months. And I decided to go to St. Croix, which I had never been to before. It was literally, I knew that it was only a certain amount of islands that I could afford it to go to, that I didn't require a visa. And as you know, the U.S. Virgin Islands, including Puerto Rico, are islands that you can go to. And I didn't want to go to Puerto Rico. I've been many times before. St. Thomas was tons of fun, and I was like, that's not going to give me the opportunity to really, so I was like, X marks the spot. And I had literally never went to St. Croix before I went. It was a total adventure. Like literally, I got there, I just had a suitcase. I knew someone there that helped me secure housing for the month. but I didn't know that you drive on the left side of the street. I didn't know anything about this island. It was literally part of the journey.
Wow.
And in order for me to afford this, I had a dime campaign, and the dime campaign was literally a dime a day for 1 year. So if you afforded me this dime a day, the $36.50, you got the book as soon as the book came out. So that's where I had that. So I've kept that price since the book debuted last June, and I just kept that in just honor of the dimers and what have you. But today, if anyone that does not have the book, I definitely want to extend the blessing, and whatever you would like to donate, whatever on your heart. If it's nothing or what have you, I am just here to receive and bless you as you have blessed me. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was I would not be here if I just did not, again, fully acknowledge my therapist that has helped me tremendously. You know, a lot of times when you go into a therapy, as this is Mental Health Month, is May or April? May. So it's coming up. Coming right in, right on time. Thank you for coming. May is Mental Health Month, and a lot of times, if you didn't know, in the Black community, it is very prevalent that mental health is more acknowledged, what have you. I'm fortunate and blessed to work with many prized therapists that do the great work, standing side by side. But when I first started, I was working at a local agency, and this agency was amazing, but the executive director was quite eccentric, you know, and although he gave me one of the greatest opportunities and brought me to Nashville, Tennessee, and started a program, there was many ideology differences. And I sought therapy because I knew that I needed a release, but also I was going through a lot of the things was coming up in regards to my life. So I said, let me get under someone's care, let me find someone. And as you can see, although we do favor each other, we are quite opposite, but that is the beauty of therapy. The beauty of therapists is talking to someone about your problems, no matter if they do not mirror you, and to releasing all the pain and trauma. So I just really wanted to pay homage to you because I just really shudder at the thought of not having someone to hear the cries, hear all of the pain and the anguish. And I know that she gets paid to do it, but her humility and her openness to learning more about not only my world, but really diving in to give me the tools that I need to get my book to complete, as well as successfully get me to 2 college degrees while here in Nashville, Tennessee. And that, you know, although, yes, I wrote the papers and, you know, did all the work and what have you, but having someone there to push when there was many times when I was like, I don't need a degree. I don't want this. This book is too painful to put out. Tony was instrumental in just saying, keep pushing. You know, just really laying that seed and really just getting me to the point where I have it. And I did it. So thank you. And I hope that if you do bless me and take the book, that you read my journey, and I hope that you too can learn more about how someone persevered and overcame the storms of their particular life, because life is hard. And as someone that has lived through a lot, everyone in this room has lived through a pandemic. And you know, there has been many people that have died through the 2 years that COVID has ravaged our lives, up, down, left, and right. And just to still be present, still be here is so present. And thank you, Jewish Family Services, for holding true. When we first decided to have this, COVID prevented it twice. So we continue to persevere, and she really wanted to announce that. So thank you. Was there any questions before I did any of the signings or what have you? Mother. So, great question. Tony, you want to take this? No. We just talked about this in the last session. Right. My father passed. My father passed in 2008. He succumbed to cancer. Just recently, 2008, so what is it, 12 years. Wow, 12 years on the 28th of March. And
14 years.
14, wow,
Yeah.
yeah. So But we had a very good, probably last 5 years, you know, really good conversations, talks, being present. My website, David Wyley Long, you'll see pictures of everyone and what have you, and see I am a namesake named after him. But he passed, but I was happy to get at peace with him. Didn't get all the questions answered, because sometimes you don't even want to know the answer, you know, what have you. As far as Lillian is still land of the living. I still consider her my mother. We're a little estranged at the moment for various reasons, but not to be cliche, you'll have to read the book to see why the estrangement is with me and Lillian. But the book is from birth up until September 5th, 2018. So it is not, I had to literally tell him, like, you gotta stop the book somewhere, because the original plan was to write the book in 2018 and complete it during that sabbatical in St. Croix. But you can't write a book on an island and the beach is literally 5 minutes away. I was on that beach way too much and just sleeping in way too much. I should have went to a barn in Tennessee, but I didn't complete the book until 20. I promised myself I was not going to let 21 come in without completing the manuscript. So I completed the book New Year's Eve 20, and then published it last year in June 23rd, what have you. So the book highlights up until my 40th birthday.
Did you self-publish or did you go through a publisher?
I self-published. Amazon is the big animal, the engine that can do mighty things. And when I finally got to the point where I was ready to publish, I was going to sell out the trunk of my car. But Amazon made it very, 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 very easy. So if any budding authors or individuals that want to get something published, it is not difficult. It is, once you have it complete, it's like probably 5 things you have to do, and it's very, very simple. They have made it user-friendly, no end, but it is on Amazon and it was self-published. Great question.
So what are your top 3 self-care tips as you continually to tell the story? Because it took all I had not to come over there and stand next to you, because I know you. So it took all I had to sit here and hear you go through it. So what are your top 3 self-care tips that you'll do every time you tell the story? Because I'm listening to you and I'm like, okay, how are you going to do this on a regular basis as sensitive as you are?
You know what? That's a great question. I think...
That's an agenda for our next session.
I know. She's taking notes. Anyone that knows me, I laugh. It's in my gumbo. I'm going to Zany's on Saturday. I really, really try my best to push through with laughter. So that's number 1. Number 2 is talking about it. I think for me, although it is difficult, because even preparing for this, it did not dawn on me that my mother had, from that scene in that classroom, she died 9 years later. I did not realize it. Every time I talk about it, I learn something new. And even when I talked to my sister, she was like, it was 9 years? And I was like, yes, it was 9 years. My mother died of AIDS complications. But when she came to Detroit to get me, she was a healthy, breathing, wonderful, lovely lady that just wanted her son with her daughter. And ultimately my father's decision of not letting her raise me drove her into a deep depression, drove her into substance abuse, drove her into an array of things. And my sister said that classroom changed her. And it changed everyone impacted, And talking about her, realizing that, kind of helps me, really honor her in ways that I've never, ever been able to. So that's the second. And then the last is probably, as you know, but probably if you don't know, I travel. I'll take a road that I've never seen before just to see something different. We're robotic in the way that we go to work the same way, we go to the same Kroger, We do that Piggly Wiggly on West End. It's closing down.
That's
FYI, it's closing down. Yes. I read the paper every day. I'm devastated too, man. I'm devastated. Yes. Yes. The Piggly Wiggly is closing down on West End. But I go a different way. You know, I try to be very intentional, and I really just try to find things that opens up my eyes and really explore. So you could do that obviously by going to foreign places, and I've been very blessed and privileged to see a lot of the world, but sometimes even here, I'll do different things. Last week I went on a mystery trip with the YMCA, and it was the next oldest person there probably was 40 years older than me. So it was not for, it was not for me. And the lady, she was like, "You sure you want to go?" And I was like, "Yes." And that was fun. It was a mystery trip. We went to this, Pearl, not Harbor, Falcon's Crest or Falcon's Rest. So it's this theater company in Menningville, Tennessee. Yes.
Falcon's Crest, like the TV show?
Falcon's Rest. So it's right.
I
I know, right?
If it was going to be Falcon's.
Yeah, I know. That's how I was able to remember. And it was this older couple. They've owned this 100-year-old home for probably 20 years, and they do shows. And it was, but it was therapy. It was therapy, and because I just never seen it, and I love history. So those are my top three. I laugh, I talk, and I travel.
I got
And
your
is
next
that
mystery trip covered.
Okay, yes.
There's a Piggly Wiggly on this one.
Okay.
Not the same though.
I know.
It's not the same.
It's not.
You know it's not.
Yeah. Apples,
I just got to go off that a little bit.
apples and oranges. I'm sure there was a lot of Piggly Wigglies here back in the day, right?
Sure.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, where I grew up, there was one.
I've been here for a
Less than
minute,
six.
so I've seen
Yeah.
quite a few.
Okay, yeah. So it was coming up from the north. You see a Piggly Wiggly, you like, I'm not I'm not up north, nowhere. So it was jarring to see a Piggly Wiggly. Great question. Any other questions?
I'm
Yes.
curious to know at what point you decided what you were going to study and what you're doing now, professionally.
So for when I decided to go to college, again, because I had a long weekend in Michigan State in 1986, as I would like to say, I knew, although I love helping people in social work, it's something I always do in some form or fashion, I just knew I had to get out of it. I knew that I needed to at least see outside, what have you. So my associate is in early childhood education because I've always wanted to teach. I've always thought that was impactful. It's something that I probably will do, and just something led me. But for my bachelor's degree, it is in urban studies because I've always loved cities, traveling and just learning cities firsthand. I knew Wallington Webb is the mayor of Denver. Didn't know, right? But me, as a child growing up and loving the library, I love learning cities and loving random things. So I learned cities that I had never been to, what have you. And they were fascinating, the infrastructure, the policies and everything. And I was the only male graduate in my class for this new program at Tennessee State. They started it 2 years ago, and it was very rewarding. And as you can imagine, being an adult learner, going to school during the pandemic, it was very tough. But what made it easy was that I enjoyed the subject matter. So it is my goal that probably within 5 years, I'm going to run for mayor.
Here in Nashville?
Here?
No. So do I have your vote?
If I did.
I know we might run against each other.
Oh, right, okay, I see you, President, I see you, right. I never desire a big city only because I've lived in big cities, and I just know that sometimes you have to do a lot, you have to know people, and sometimes you have to do so much added things that really doesn't interest me. So the ideal goal is a smaller city like a Smyrna or a Brentwood, somewhere where I can be the most impactful, I can know the constituents I serve. And I like to joke that I can go to one barbecue, shake 20 hands, 10 people vote for me, and I'm in. So, real easy breezy, what have you. Mr. Mayor. Have you seen Mr. Mayor on NBC?
Yes.
It stars Ted Danson.
Yeah.
So that is something that I foresee, what have you. But that is something that is in the pipeline that I'm going to run for public office. And kind of what really has even deepened my desire, if you look at the current Biden administration, there's 2 small-town mayors as secretaries. So South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg is a Secretary of Transportation. South Bend, Indiana, now he's a Cabinet Secretary. And then Marsha Fudge, who was the Warrendale, Ohio Mayor, very wonderful black lady. She was the Warrendale, Ohio Mayor. Yeah. So you just think population 2,000, and now she has ascended to the top of the federal level in secretary role. So I'm not saying.
That makes me think you're going back to school to learn law. If you're pursuing a public political career, are you going back to school?
You never know. You may have to read the book to see what what lies ahead. But I don't know. At the current moment, I am taking a brain break. I'll never say never because I never thought I would graduate college. I just never, not that I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the drive or the desire. And I think you need to have all those lined up in order to be successful. And a lot of my careers didn't require a degree. I have a credential to do addiction counseling, which was key in me securing great roles and leading in different facets. But the degree was never there because I just knew everything had to line up. And it wasn't until I had been here 5 years, everything lined up. And I saved and paid for the associates out of my pocket, which was really a problem for me of just being an adult and being responsible enough to do that. And then even going for that, I was complete. And I was like, you know what, I've done all this. Let me go a little bit step further. So
So it was that kind of work that brought you to Nashville in
Yes.
the first place?
Yes.
And what brought you to Jewish Family Service? I mean, not many people know we're here.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So it goes back into the everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. So why you may see someone at the traffic light, what have you. I was presenting a project that I had. So I was recruited to start a project here, MSM grant, Men That Have Sex with Men, LGBT focused grant. And during that first year of me going down the community, I think I befriended someone from Jewish Family Services at an event. Very simple,
Like
very
a staff member.
Right.
Okay.
Very simple, and it was just a cross paths of that.
And that put the idea in your head? I mean, you didn't interview several therapists and decide on one?
I did, and I got the best one. I did.
Because I can't imagine that you don't always sync with the person that, you're in therapy with. I mean, you
No.
don't get it right all the time, and I'm just wondering.
That's real. I think Tony's ability to be a sponge, it's such a critical attribute of a social therapist, just to, the ability to really learn. But a lot of it, I'm sure, was curiosity, but a lot of it, she was literally just learning as she went. And she probably knew a lot, and maybe she just didn't reveal. But a lot of the things that I was bringing and the trauma, what have you, she may have just not heard it from me, or heard it from someone that mirrored me, or what have you. And I used to joke to myself, like, dang, she really is getting this, and this is something that is really. And then we can have honest dialogue about things that she may have not understood and what have you. So it's been a beautiful relationship, because I think it has proved time and time again the merit of taking care of self and what have you. But I did have some hiccups, but once I got with
Well, I've been waiting 6 months to hear you talk, and I'm just thrilled to be here. And your story is just so inspiring, and thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for receiving it. I never take lightly people's time and energy, but also receiving. And it's a beautiful thing. So I'm glad.
I have a question. What was your draw to the game shows? Was it just like a vision? Was it an excitement? Was it a journey that you wanted to follow through to see how many you could be a part of? What drew you to that?
I love a good challenge. If I'm not challenged, I just can't. I just don't. I don't grow. And game shows challenge me in ways that never before. But I would be lying if I would not acknowledge Lillian was on a game show in 1997, and I was instrumental in that game show. There was back in Michigan, they have the Michigan Lottery. A lot of states have lottery systems, and they used to have this show called Fame and Fortune, and Fame and Fortune, yes, Fame and Fortune. And the gimmick behind Fame and Fortune was very simple: 6 contestants. In order to get on the game show, you had to mail in 3 losing scratch-offs. And they picked 6 envelopes. This is circa 1997. And I remember every week it was my job to go around to the corner stores to get the people, because they would just throw them away. I'm digging in the trash, stuffing envelopes, and we would drop these in barrels. I mean, the trash cans that had the envelopes were yay high. And they had these all around the state. And I remember probably like 6 months in, I'm like, this is just the most, like 6, you're gonna pick 6. And just imagine they're dumping these into like clearly, I don't know how many, but I would easily attest 100,000, you know. And I'm just like, there's no way that she's gonna get on this game show, but I'm just a stuffman. That was just my job. That was just something that I did. And they pulled her name. And I remember she called me. Ironically, I was visiting someone in Eastern Michigan, in Ypsilanti, Michigan. And I was just like, what? And she was like, they pulled my name. And she went on Valentine's Day, 1997. And she won. She got to the final round. And you have, I think the top prize was $50,000. You had to guess 1, 2, 3, or 4. And she guessed 3, it wasn't 3. She guessed 2, it wasn't 2. She guessed 4, it wasn't 4. The top prize was behind number 1. So she only won $5,000, but she also won a cruise. And from that moment, I was like, her excitement, her jubilation. I mean, I would never say that she's a sad person, but I would say that she's very muted and just very, I wouldn't say sad, just muted. If that makes any sense. But the jubilation that she had from this game show was just like stimulating, like, oh my God. And I'm just like, wow, I want some of that.
We saw it.
Yes. So it is something that it just spurred from there. And from there, my first show was Sally Jesse Raphael in 2001. And then I did Family Feud. And then I did Let's Make a Deal. Then I did The Price is Right. And then most recently I did Just Judy. So it's something that I do like doing, and it's just a challenge. And most of the time I do things because I don't think I can, and it's not until I've done it like, oh, I can do it. Great question. All right.
Thank you, David.
So if you would like I said, the book is for sale.